his computer. So welcome to our Meet the Journalist event. We are joined today by Kevin Pashby, who's a former BBC radio presenter, newsreader and producer. I'll get him to introduce himself in a minute. And Kevin's with us to share all his insider secrets on how to secure radio interviews, how to approach the producers, how to be in the little black book as the expert. I've been friends with Kevin for a long time, and what he doesn't know isn't worth knowing because he knows absolutely everything. And what is great is hopefully we'll be able to talk today as well with Kevin on how radio has changed and evolved, and now how it's kind of multimedia as well, that it's online too. But it's really understanding how radio could be amazing for your business and your expertise, whether it's just a local BBC channel, whether it's a commercial channel, or whether it's the national. We'll hopefully cover it all today. So welcome, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
No problems. Good morning. Hello.
Can you just tell us, I mean, you'll be here all day otherwise, just tell us very briefly about your kind of background in radio and how long you've been doing it for?
I've been doing radio now for just over 27 years. I know I don't look that old. And I started off at BRMB in Birmingham, where having known Rachel, she got me in with the news editor there, and she was even media matchmaking way back then, and got me work experience. And that turned into a traineeship, which turned into a full-time job, which then turned into a 16-year career at BRMB, which I then left and went over to the BBC at BBC WM in Birmingham, where I spent just over 11 years being a producer, presenter, newsreader, doing every job, the editor, making decisions about what we put out on the radio, how it sounds, who we talk to, who we interview. So yeah, it's been a fun 3 decades so far.
Fantastic. And I bet it's changed so much in that time, hasn't it?
Oh, so much, from so many different perspectives, so many different points of view. The industry has completely changed. When I joined it nearly 30 years ago, the newsroom at BRMB had, I think, about 9, if not 10 journalists working there. Now, I think they have at Free Radio, they have about 5 journalists, but those 5 journalists will supply news for 3 radio stations. So it's become smaller and more concise in a lot of ways. And from down the technology that we use, I was talking one day to a university student the other week, and I was talking about the old Ewers that we used to carry around to record on the reel-to-reel, and they were the size of a suitcase. And now people walk around and you can use your iPhone. So yeah, even from the machinery and the equipment that we use down to the down to the size of people, but the basic fundamentals of radio have always remained the same.
Brilliant. And that's what we want to get to. And also we really want to cover now how it's so much easier, isn't it, to kind of approach a radio producer and put your quotes in with the likes of the iPhones, and because it's such such good clarity, good quality, isn't it? So someone could literally record. I mean, we might as well just jump into that straight away. Someone could just record a quote. So there was a timely story, for example, record it and send it into you. And is that something you would be able to use?
Yeah, absolutely. And even through the pandemic, the broadcasting industry has had to find new ways to broadcast, because overnight the studios were shut down and reporters and people weren't allowed in to do their normal desk jobs. We weren't exempt from the same rules as any other business, any other operator. We had to think on our feet and develop new ways of getting audio. And that went down to, I worked on the Make a Difference strand for WM, which was an incredibly successful strand for the BBC as a whole, looking at community initiatives and community news during the pandemic. And my job was to get those voices on air. So how do I do that from my front room, from my living room? I've got my laptop, I've got my iPhone. Well, it's quite easy. WhatsApp, you can record audio and send that. We can download that as a chunk of audio. A lot of places now are keeping that. And instead of doing the old style phone interviews where we do an interview over the phone, we now do an interview over WhatsApp, where I record the questions, you record the answers. We then download it straight onto the computers, stick it in the system, package it together, and it makes it sound like it's a live interview that's happened organically.
Wow. So
So
you ask one question, they respond to it, then you ask another, and so you ping pong it, or just do like if they have a list of the questions, then they answer it, pause. How does that work?
you can do it either way. You can do it either way. And I always work with the person that I'm interviewing, however they most feel comfortable getting those questions. It's a much more prolonged way, because obviously I've got to listen to your answer, then think of my next question, then record it, then send it. You have to listen to my question, then record your answer. But also now we can use Zoom like we're doing now. Rachel's recording this to send out. We'd record it, then download it as an audio file. So there's loads of different tricks and ways now of how we can record from home and be more mobile. And that's been a really steep learning curve. And it's probably just like it's leaving a question mark over all the offices in our cities and towns with people working at home. It will leave quite a few questions for the radio industry or the media industries. Do we actually need all these big, vast offices that cost millions of pounds when we can just have our reporters on the ground? And to me, I
Well,
think
we
that's
used to have to go into the studio, didn't we, or record it down an ISDN line, so the quality was good enough. But now, obviously, you're saying over WhatsApp and Zoom, you can then download the audio, and it's fine for you.
absolutely. Any one of you there now with your business could develop your own podcast and record, publish your podcast just using your mobile phone. It's
Brilliant.
the technology is staggering at the moment, and I think we might see a switch in the media, especially the BBC, I think, on where their reporters are based. And been in the industry 30 years, you see the cycle of how things go. When the times are good, you're very fat with staff. When the times are bad, you slash those staff down, and it's always an evolving door. And you see the different needs and the different wants and desires on the same cycle. So we might see now that as places like the BBC have learned, they don't need their reporters. For instance, where I am in Leeds, they don't need their reporters to go into BBC Leeds every morning to then be sent out back to the communities to get the stories. The reporters might stay at home all day and be more mobile, because they've got a studio in their hands now. So you might see a real upsurge in more local news, which I think will be absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so let's just jump in and tell you guys that are joining us live, and also if you're watching this on the replay, how this is going to work. So you've got the opportunity, if you're joining us live, to ask your questions. And as I said right at the beginning, before we started recording, what normally happens is we chat for ages because people are a little bit nervous, and I totally get that. And then they tend to put the hands up towards the end, and then we're 10 minutes in and we're trying to answer as many quick questions as we have. So if you have a question, can you raise your hand in the emoji? And then you'll come up in order, I think, at the top, and then I can come to you to answer your question, or you can put it in the chat. But with the chat, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to read all these and focus on what Kevin is saying. So Kelly's just put hers up first, so this is working, which is brilliant. And then what we can do is we can answer your questions. Nikki's next, which is brilliant. And then if we get a chance as well, people can kind of now I'm going to put them in order because they're now gone out of order because Nicola's gone to the beginning. We can basically also see if you can kind of pitch ideas as well. Kevin, currently, where are you, Kevin, at the moment? Are you freelancing at the moment? So you're freelancing around and about. So tell us about that.
I'm currently freelancing. I had a staff job at the BBC, and the BBC offered voluntary redundancy last November. I inquired as to what my package would be and thought that's very nice. It enables me to move out of Birmingham, go to my partner in Yorkshire, and that's where I'm now freelancing. And I said to Rachel yesterday, I'm kind of seeing things now from the other end, because I haven't got a staff job, so I've got to badger these news editors and journalists myself to get work, just like you've got to badger them to get your stories. I'm sending off emails, not getting any replies, having to chase them, sending boxes of cookies to entice them to talk to me, and all those little tricks that you learn. But they really do work. So it's a real interesting juxtaposition to be on the other side now, trying to get work.
You've got real empathy with all us asking our questions for you, which is going to be brilliant. Okay, so in terms of from that point of view, Kevin's going to help you with the tips and everything. If you have got great stories, the way journalists work is he may keep a note of you to move when he goes somewhere else and pick up on it. I was listening to a journalist interview the other day, and they were saying how when their emails and press releases come in, they don't respond straight away, but sometimes they have actual folders where they archive them for stories to follow up, and then it might be 6 months time that they follow that story up. So Kevin's going to be like this, so if you've got a great story. So let's start with Kelly. You put your hand up first. Kelly, you've got a question, then I'm going to go to Nikki and then to Nicola. So Kelly, what was your question for Kevin?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, so this is a direct question and a direct campaign or idea that I am just about to go forward with. I'm also from Yorkshire. I'm in Bradford, so where you might appreciate this idea. So I run a kindness campaign called Spread a Little Sunshine, and part of that campaign is called the Happy Bench Project. Now, I've been into Europe, into America with these happy benches, and the chat benches to combat loneliness, encouraging human connection. So that's the idea. But where my next little sort of trick, if you want to call it, is this, which is the Yorkshire Happy Bench. So is that backwards to you guys? Is it backwards?
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay, so you'd have to read it in a very strong Yorkshire accent. So it's tappy bench, park this end down if they don't mind someday, parking this end down and saying hey up. So it's very, very Yorkshire. I asked somebody to translate it into Yorkshire. So
what's your question, Kelly, then? Because obviously we're going to...
No, but I just need to explain. So the question is so I'm going to be putting these posters on 24 benches in Yorkshire with 24 acts of kindness on the benches. Okay, so that's the story, that's the campaign. The idea is to find these acts of kindness and then pay it forward to 3 other people to spread the kindness. So that's the idea. How am I best pitching this and getting it out there?
I think right now, you're in Bradford, you say, yeah? Are you aware that the BBC have recently, well, I think it's coming to an end soon, set up a pop-up local radio station called BBC Bradford?
No, I didn't know that. Okay, that's good.
Based out of BBC Leeds. And the idea being that the BBC decided that they wanted to create new platforms for underserved audiences, and Bradford was one of those areas, and also Wolverhampton. So they've been doing this pop-up trial radio station just to see how it goes. So, you know, that's your perfect opportunity whilst they're talking all things Bradford to get in the face of the editor at BBC Leeds, who's called Michael Henderson. You can talk to him and say, look, BBC Bradford needs to hear about this story, that we're going to spread a little sunshine all from Bradford. And you know, you might just fall lucky, because at the moment that they've got a station there that is focused on it's Bradford FM basically. So they'll be hungry and thirsty for as much Bradford orientated news that they can squeeze into they're only doing 2 shows, the breakfast show and the mid-morning show. But to me, if I was to hear that as a producer of the mid-morning show on BBC Bradford, I'd get you on straight away, because it's all a part, it fits in with their Make a Difference campaign. It's strong across the BBC. You are actively making a difference. So it's being aware, not just of your story, but being aware of what media there is in your vicinity, what media there is in your area, and tapping into how that works. Now, the pitch that you'd send to BBC Bradford about you being a purely Bradford-based place would be different to the tip that you'd send to Greatest Hits Yorkshire or to Heart Yorkshire, because they're a commercial operation. So they don't have the luxury of having the airtime to put these people on, because they're too busy playing Britney and I don't know, New Kids on the Block, where they wouldn't play that now, would they? I don't know. They're too busy playing all the chart hit people, whoever they are, the hip and young people now. And they only get like a minute or 90 seconds at the top of the hour. But they may look at that as a way of just condensing that down. So I think it has got news appeal to what's going on at the moment. So I'd also target the Yorkshire Post and the newspapers around here.
And the media want good stories, don't they? Can I ask you on that point, Kevin, in terms of the radio stations, a lot of the stuff, and it's a topic we're going to be covering in the future, is multimedia press releases, so that you send like the radio quotes, maybe if it's got a TV view, because that could make maybe a nice little TV piece as well, with people going to the bench and, you know, what they get out of it and stuff like that. And then the online, the written word. In terms of the radio, do they put the online story as well to support then the radio stuff?
More and more so now that's happening. We call it the visualization of radio with pictures. because obviously we realize people are carrying around their mobile phones now. They can access news like that. No longer do we have to wait for the 1 o'clock or the 6 o'clock news to come on telly to get our news feed, or wait for the news at the top of the bottom of the hour. You can literally pick up your phone now and go onto any Twitter feed. And the radio stations will have a Twitter feed where they'll want to complement what's going on air with a story online. And even more so, you might see on your local BBC stations and also on ITV that they have what they call video shorts, which are the videos that are made for social media. But if they get a high engagement rate online, that will make its way onto the television. It's the same process as now. Newspapers generally release their stories first and foremost to their internet sites, and whether it makes it into the following day's newspaper, like the Birmingham Mail, depends on how many clicks it gets and how popular it is, and that will decide where it goes into the paper. So it's an evolving and ever-changing thing, and it's going to evolve and change even more so.
It's all to do with the analytics and the algorithms now, isn't it? Yeah. And watching that, and that's fantastic. But that gives us hope again that anyone can put a blog in first and see how it gets picked up, and then it could spiral. And we talked about that last week. No, that's great. And also, Kelly, the news at the moment, everyone's looking for good news, so it could be really good. If you've got any questions, also not just reference, it might not just be about your business. It might just be specific about radio, about how far in advance do they plan their radio stories, do they follow in trending news stories? Any questions you've got from that point of view, also put your hand up, we can ask. We're coming to you, Nikki, next, and then Nicola Hemming. So Nikki Valence, can we ask you your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm right at the beginning of my PR planning, marketing planning strategy, and I've literally just launched a Facebook group community, which has already grown to 115 people in the space of a couple of weeks without me really trying. So I think I've hit on an idea, and I'm happy to talk about that, but this isn't really a pitch. It's more to say, when you're starting to try and find those contacts, and if you didn't have Media Matchmaker, how would you find the names of the people? You might know which the local radio stations are, but how do you find the right person to target with your idea? I mean, obviously, mine isn't actually a local story, so I don't know whether it would be something that specifically would be relevant to local, but obviously I can use the fact that I'm local and say I'm a local person doing this thing. Yeah. But aside from that, how do you find them? How do you find the people to target?
Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't got the benefit of a media matchmaker like Rachel, then it's tough to get the names and get the details of who is out there. There's almost like a fortress that goes up around these places, because as much as they want you to have their details, they don't want the phones ringing off the hook 24/7 and having to take pictures down the phone or emails, because the newsrooms are so incredibly busy and so fast paced that we don't have the time anymore to sit there and chat to get an idea or story. The best thing I would say is pick up the phone and phone the newsroom, or phone the reception and just say, right, can you give me the name and number and email of the news editor? Search the media organization on social media, on Twitter, and look at who their reporters are. And
who puts the story on, Kev? Is it the producers? Is it the producers they should approach? Or is it the news desk? And what's the difference between a news desk and a producer for a radio show?
Okay, the news desk would be the guardian of the the newsroom. It would be the first layer for you to get through, more or less. Generally, it varies from radio station to radio station, in all honesty. Some places, the news editors themselves and the editors will dictate what goes in the programs, what happens. Other places, like the local BBC, it will be all down to the show producers. Now, the show producers, a lot of the time, they're not consistent. There's a revolving door around the studio as to who produces the mid-morning. In a normal environment, that would be consistent and would be the same person every day. So it's very easy to phone up and say, right, could you give me the name and number of the mid-morning show, the breakfast show, who looks after those programs? And that's how you find out, is you have to phone them, pick up the phone and phone them, or just take a punt, find that producer on Twitter and tweet the hell out of what's going on. And
I'm going to share with you as well while you're talking that. See, what we do is we take all the the ease out of it. So what we allow everybody to do is look for the BBC producers, because I knew this question would come up, and basically we can search for any journalist with a media database on any sector. So if you wanted to, Nicola, to use something like this makes it easy for you. So these are all the BBC radio producers across the whole of the UK, whether it's regional or national. And then what you could do is send them, but they are like, it's like gold dust trying to get these. So we've had a team of people that have actually found all these, so you can specifically contact, whether it's your area, whether it's a national radio 2, wherever it is. But like Kev said, phone up, speak to the, see who's the producer for that day, because Kevin, with the stories, they turn them around really quickly, don't they? So if there's a breaking news story, there's something relevant you can talk about, you could contact them a few hours before and be on that radio station within an hour or within minutes sometimes, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Well, breaking news happens now so instantly, and the media reacts to breaking news so quickly now. We need people to talk to. We need people that are ready to go, that are already in our databases, already on our radars, that we know aren't going to freeze up, aren't going to swear, aren't going to libel, aren't going to say the wrong thing, but they're going to know their stuff. They're aware of what's going on. They're across the news as well, so we can pick up the phone and say the Duke of Edinburgh comes out of hospital. We can phone up and get a royal correspondent or a biographer in seconds because we've got the database there. But if you're somebody who is writing a book about the royal family, then you too can get involved because you see that breaking news. So just get in touch with your local media service and say, look, I've been doing a book on Prince Philip and I'm a local person, and that might be a way in. So whatever your industry or whatever your story or whatever you're pushing is, keep an eye on the media and what's in the news. And if there's a correlation with what you're doing, then that's the time to pick up the phone and say, right, this is in the news today. I'm an expert on this. You can talk to me about it. Here are my details.
And it does work really well. And with Media Matchmaker now, the journalists are going to be able to go into the platform and be able to put in royal correspondence or royal, and then your profile will pop up if you've used that as a keyword. So we're making it even easier for the journalists. Nicola Hemming, I'll come to you next, then Becky, then Pale with your question. So Nicola, can I come to you for your question? Nicola Hemming?
Yeah, I think in some respects it's probably been answered. It's just, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think my internet's unstable. Sorry. Yeah, in some respects I feel as though it's been answered. I'm a complete self-publicising virgin, so I've never done anything like this. But the other day, when the police officer murdered that girl, and having been a police officer previously and now being the founder of Women Empowering Women, I'd got a bee in my bonnet and I thought I need to talk about this from both points of view, but just didn't know where to start and where to go. So in some respects you've answered some of those questions, but it's just how you put yourself out there when you've never done anything like this before.
I think also, before Kevin jumps in, I'm going to say to you, what was the point of it? What's the end in mind? And this is what I say to you, and all you guys that are on my meetups a lot, I always start with what's the end in mind? What are you trying to achieve? But the fact that it would come around to the fact that you're women in business now, then that would be the angle of the story. Kevin, would that be relevant? Do you think they would have wanted to talk to her?
Absolutely. That would be what we call in the industry a golden call. And another easy way, another little trick that I'll give away. Most BBC local radio stations will do a phone-in show on their station at some point during the day, where they will ask a question and get the audience to call in. Yes, they'll have experts on to talk that, just like Jeremy Vine does on his Channel 5 show. And it's there to promote engagement, get the locals talking about local issues, local stories. You're in Birmingham, Nicola, yeah? Yeah.
Can you tell by my accent?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm missing the accent already. BBC WM would have done a phone-in show at some point on the mid-morning show, maybe asking ladies, do you feel safe? Do women feel safe out there? You listening to that and listening for instances like that, being a former police woman and now being involved with Women Empowering Women, I think you said it was, the group that you involved, that would have been great to have got you on as a caller.
Yeah.
And probably the producer would have been sat there thinking, oh my word, we can keep Nicola's details in our database for a future time where we need to speak to a former policewoman, or speak to someone that's dealing with female issues. So it'd be double faceted, because there's always a need. We always used to have a group of about 3 or 4 former police officers on speed dial to talk to about any policing issues. And they'd come on and talk about that. So if that was something that you'd want to get involved with, then that's the way to go about it and to start doing that.
And that story will probably pop up back up again in the next few weeks, won't it?
Yeah.
When there's the funeral
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'd get ready for it. But also, Kevin, just on that note that you mentioned, and it's always good to jump in because I know the answers. So, okay, so that BBC story, Nicola goes on in a local community, you put the details in, do the BBC share their contacts overall? So could her details end up in the national database?
Yes, absolutely. The BBC has one database for all newsrooms. They operate from a system called Open Media, and that's exactly what it is. It is Open Media. Whatever contact detail gets put in by a breakfast show producer in Bristol will be easily accessible by a researcher and guest booker for BBC 5 Live, the Today programme, Radio 2, the 6 o'clock news, Panorama, all of it. They can all access it, but we have to have your permission to share that information from the GDPR rules. So you'd be asked, are you okay for us to put your details in the database? Can we make it visible to everyone at the BBC? That would mean that other BBC, and you just say yes, because once you're in there, and if it's been inputted generally, if someone on 5 Live wanted to get a policing expert on to speak to their phone-in show, they just type in policing, women's safety, and your details would come up. You'd then get a phone call. Hi, can we talk to you? Can you go on air now? And literally like that, you'd be on air. That's how quick the system is.
And what you'll be able to do as well with ours, Nicola, and just bringing it back because obviously it's relevant, is put those details in your own profile with Media Matchmaker. So when the journalists go in there, we'll be able to put those keywords in overall as well. Then what you can also do is upload your sound bites, any sound bites that you might have to your own profile, depending on your media pass, and then any video as well, so they can access your sound bites from your media profile page. Okay, I'm going to come to Becky next, and then after Becky Payal, we're going to probably still have some more time. So if you've got any more questions, it would be great to hear your questions, and then we can talk generically and like maybe pitch some story ideas if we get a chance. Becky, can I ask you a question?
Good morning. Good morning, Kevin. Hello, everyone. So my question is, I've had a lot of national and international press publicity. And I have been interviewed on national and international radio as well. But it's kind of all stopped now. And I've sent out numerous emails to, TV programs, etc. And I was supposed to be on GMTV 2 years ago, in last October, 2 years ago. But something happened. Obviously, a newer story came in, and it didn't transpire. So my question is, how do you secure further, press publicity? And I've even emailed the Sun newspaper and people like that to say, do you want me to do a column for you, on a trial basis, doing pet consultations? People can send in their photographs, etc. And there was also interest in me from a Sky TV channel called Unexplained Mysteries. That was through a friend. They didn't contact me directly. She just happened to tell them about me. But I think what I do is quite unique, and I don't know anyone else, there probably is, that can actually give street names and house numbers over the other side of the world of where a pet is. So
what's the best way to do this, Kev, then? Because obviously, so she's had some publicity, which is fantastic. It's keeping the momentum going, isn't it? How do we keep the stories fresh so that it gets picked up on?
Well,
Becky, we only have one story, one lot of expertise.
Yeah, you just got to keep on keeping on. Right now with the pandemic, that has been the 100% show filler for every program, every studio, TV, radio, newspaper. It's been all about the pandemic. That will change as we come out of lockdown. as people's thirst and need for the information develops, that will open up, and everything calms down, that will open up to normal programming again. What I'd say to you, Becky, is that you've got to play clever. You've got to look at what's in the news, what's on the news agenda today, what's in the news, and how can I make what's in the news relatable to me. So for you, there's two ideas that have just come into my head straight away. The other day, and it's a hot topic for radio discussion and for news at the moment, theft of pets. During the pandemic, people are having their pets stolen. Is there any way that you can tap into that story? Is there anything about your business, what you do, that taps into that? So is it an idea that you can maybe help try and find where these lost pets are, where they've gone, the stolen pets? Another one that I've had an idea about is, okay, when the pandemic, we've learned loads about how the pandemic and coronavirus has affected us as humans, but how has it affected the animals? How has it affected our pets? How has it affected the dogs that would normally be left on their own all day, the cats that would normally be left on their own? They're human. The humans are now there with them day in, day out. So are they fed up with that? Are they looking at their humans saying, I wish you'd get back to work and leave me alone to scratch around and stuff? So is there something in that how people may have seen a difference or change in their pet's personality during the pandemic? I reckon if you did some research on that, got some good, strong facts and figures, because I'm guessing, as you probably already find out, that when you're an animal communicator, we do have to challenge and push. What does that mean? How do you do it? How do we know that you're not just sat there making it up? How credible are you? And I'm sure you're absolutely, I'm not questioning your credibility, but that's just something that we'd have to do, saying, how does this work then? It's just making sure that you're ready for questions like that as well. But just really phoning up your local BBC stations, getting that information out there, getting a press release out there. I reckon if you were to do something like that, that would get you out there again.
I absolutely agree, and it's making it topical, and it's understanding, your services. It's not with PR. It's telling, not selling. So it's telling the story behind your services so that the two fit in, and it's just finding new angles all the time. And those are great. You've got some great stories there, Becky. So hopefully that's helped.
Can I just ask, Becky, you were bumped off GMTV. Did you get back in touch with them to try and keep the conversation going, or did you leave it for them to get back in touch with you?
No, I didn't get back in contact with them. No. But I mean, I have.
Yeah.
My Facebook page is full of video testimonials of pets, lost and stolen pets that I've found. Yeah. So I'll get on with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. How exciting.
Yeah, I think you should. I'll look out for you.
Brilliant. I'm going to come to Payar next, and then Jenny has put. I never know how to pronounce your name because I'm dyslexic. So your name really confuses me on how to say it. But Payar, I'm going to come to you next, and then to Jenny. Hopefully, I've said that right. Payar, what's your question? Oh, we still can't hear you. If you type your question, if we can't hear you, I'll come to Jenny next. And if we can't hear you still, I'll ask the question for you. So type it in the chat. Jenny, have I said your name right? Sorry.
Yes, fine, Jenny.
It's Jenny. What's your question?
Yeah, so I've never been featured in the media as such. I go on lots of podcasts and I do those things. And I do social media, basically. That's like how I do my business. So my question is, because I think this pandemic thing is, it can tie in with what I do. So I'm a coach, I'm a healer, I'm a mentor. I help people actually upgrade their mindset, their energy, everything, like to become, awesome. highest potential activation, basically. So I'm just thinking I work with business owners and I work with individuals that wants to unlock themselves. So I don't really know how do I go in with the mental health, where the fear has been, where we've been sort of locked down, and then how we can raise again up into our best self?
Yeah. What would you say, Kev?
I would definitely say so. I think I'd pitch that in a way that the country's now going to be going into recovery mode, and that's exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
We're about to re-emerge as we get through these different points on the roadmap out of here. We're in a recovery situation now, so that's a massive sector and a massive time for you to become active on your social media, on the podcasts, and just pushing yourself and offering yourself as a mental health expert or a business development point of view. I'd
like the personal energy of the business owners are so important for their success.
Well,
so,
it's all, motivation and that getting the energies right. And I love all of that. But some journalists are so prickly and so skeptic that if you were to go in and pitch that, I'm an energy healer, I'll make sure they've got the right energies, and they'll just roll their eyes and think, oh, here we go. But if you were to turn that around to call yourself a motivational speaker, someone who helps people, then that just gives, I want to say gives more credibility, but I don't mean that in a detrimental way.
No. So they understand it more,
don't they?
Best potential, unlocking somebody's best potential, because that's fine.
If I was to say, we've got Jenny on the line now. She's a business development motivator. She's going to tell us now the top 5 ways that you can make sure your business in its best way to and do that press release. Come up with the top of the 5, or I like things in 3s. I don't know what it is about the number 3. I like to put.
Well, they say 3, 4, 3. Yeah, 3, 5, 7, or 3, 4, 5.
Come up with those tips for how businesses can recover, and you can touch on the mental health and the energies and having the right passion.
So like the alignment and feeling good about what you're doing, and
absolutely
the happiness, the joy of doing something, and all that.
And it's just getting in front of them. Just think, Jenny, you're already doing your social media, so you're connecting and you're giving value. It's just now connecting it to the wider audience of radio. So see, it's exactly the same way. Media is just a former extension of what you're already doing, but it is about the value, making it relevant, making it trending. Like we've said with others, follow the trending news stories. On that point, it's a good one. Pale's put in here, she's a regular BBC Radio Leicestershire morning paper reviewer. She's put, how can I leverage that to be more business-based without offending the presenter? Light-hearted articles, no politics, no religion, etc. I try and do a business story. I'm under the impression that guests usually stick with their presenter. She has an up-and-coming event with guest speaker Linda Plant, The Apprentice, want to promote it, and she wants to promote it without selling it, the Queen of Mean. This is a really good one, because a lot of the BBC radio stations they're speaking to a consumer, aren't they? But if you're B2B, how do you get round this? And hopefully answering Pale's question.
I think it's having a word with the producer and just saying, look, I've been doing the newspaper reviews. You can use me for other things as well. And asking the producer of the breakfast show for the names and emails of the other producers for the other shows, and get in touch with them directly yourself. And just sort of like say that you can do so much more than just review the papers. I would say, and something that I've experienced having produced breakfast shows and had regular newspaper reviewers, some other shows are then reluctant to use you because you are the newspaper reviewer for the breakfast show, rather than. So it works both ways. It can have a positive impact. It can also have a negative impact. So I think the event you've got coming up with Linda Plant, the Queen of Mean, I think it would be difficult not to put her forward as that, because she's such a tough lady, isn't she? She asks the tough questions. So you could do that. You could even say that you've got this event coming up and see if she'll talk to the local media to help publicize it, to help pre-publicize it. And by doing that, the radio stations get access to Linda. Okay, Linda, what's going on? We've not had The Apprentice this year. What's happening? When's it coming back? Are we gonna get it back? And just maybe lifting the lid on some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes will give the buy-in enough for the producers and presenters to pull you up and get you on. And then as part of that, you get coverage of your event as well.
Brilliant. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
yay!
I've turned all this technology off and I can now just speak. Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you, Kevin. It's just, I was just under the impression that once you sort of stay with the presenter, because she's become a friend as well, which never helps in business. So I don't really want to offend her, but I do feel it's a little bit what you said, where I think people have got used to me being on there. So I can't sort of go anywhere else. But I really don't want to offend her, because I do like going on as well, because it's all lighthearted. You know, we don't touch politics, religion, that side. It is just literally a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee, let's chat. And I like that as well, because that's very much me. But I just want to almost take it for myself and my own profile to the next level.
Yeah,
I would be honest with her and say, you know, I think she'd probably help you, if I'm being truthful, you know, and maybe say you've got some ideas from a business point of view, because there's so many small business owners that you can make it relevant to the pandemic, how they're pivoting, you know, with the the retention scheme that you know the government's offering. There's so many stories that you could be cut to, because they have a duty to cover the business side as well, don't they, Kevin?
They do, absolutely. So yeah, you didn't just say to her, look, who do I pitch them? I've got come up with some great ideas for a story, and then say, right, who do I pitch these story ideas to? Can you give me the emails of the other people that I can pitch these ideas to? And you can be open and honest, saying, look, I love doing the paper review. I absolutely love doing that, but I feel like I've got so much more to give for the radio station. They could utilize me and use me in different ways.
Especially like Nicola with your networking group as well, Pale, you know, it could work really well. Kevin, I want to run something by you, and this is something that happens all the time, and I see it all the time, and this is a press release I had come in this morning, and it was interesting because this is what we typically do. We give a press release based on something that we think is going to be relevant, but really it's kind of, I'm not sure whether it's relevant. So this was a good friend of mine sent this to me. He's produced this song called a sea shanty, because it's very topical at the moment, and it's done the Adele song. So we put a press release together to it, and I'm kind of thinking, oh God, I'm not sure it would get picked up on, because I'm like, yeah, I'll send it out, but it's just an Adele song. He's done a sea shanty. So then I said to him, I said a sea shanty, I'm always saying that wrong. So I said to him, I phoned this morning, I said, look, how's it going? What's the angle? He said, oh, it's just been unbelievable. It's been so incredible. He said, I do songwriting sessions as well and teach people. He said, I'm being inundated with people asking me how to record a sea shanty. I went, that's your story. Yes. Am I right? Is that the headline of the story?
That absolutely is. That absolutely is, because that's the sea shanty phenomenon has become a news story within itself. So the fact that he's just done an Adele song in that style is a bit, yeah, okay. But for him to then saying he's had such an increase in people wanting to learn sea shanties opens up so many more opportunities to get him on the radio. So if I was the producer, I'd have him on air, do an interview about sea shanties, where they come from, how they work, how you can do one, and say, right, listeners, if you want to call in and give us your name, an object, a destination, a location, X will now turn that into a sea shanty live on air for you now. And then that creates fun radio, which gets your name out there and makes a more memorable moment than the guy who's
because his end goal was to sell more of his records and to become known as a producer and as a speaker. But a bit like what Becky does, and all of us, let's face it, we're all here to publicize our business and our expertise, but you have to find the story behind it, don't you?
You do, and don't be scared. Once you've been on that radio show or TV show, or your article's been in a newspaper, tweet the hell out of that at the media in there as well, at BBC Leicester in there, at them all as well, once before, during, and after. So it gives a build up, and generally, if you do include the radio station's Twitter account on that, they'll then retweet it, which goes to all of their followers. So then it grows. So it's not just being on the radio in that moment, it's what you do afterwards as well to get the most out of that.
Absolutely, and leverage it.
They just get more and more.
We've got 15 minutes left, 14 minutes left. Any questions that you've got? I've got a few that I'm going to ask Kevin as well, but put your hand up on the emoji or just pop it in the chat. I'm struggling to see the chat because all the messages coming through, people direct messaging me as well. But any other questions, put them in. I'm going to bring up Catherine. I feel like I always pick on her as a too strong word, because I get to know her really well in her business. And I know she's got amazing stories, but a little bit nervous. But Catherine, if you were going to get onto radio to talk about something, you know, she helps people with allergens, Kevin, and kind of air indoor quality. And she's got this big thing at the moment about silver birch trees. And how the schools are planting silver birch trees. Even I know a pitch now really well, and I keep saying to her, this is going to be great for radio, whatever, but oh god, we just need to get the confidence to kind of get out there. Would it make a good radio story, Kev?
I think it's quite visual. That would be my concern. You want to, it's a visual story, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't offer it and you shouldn't push it, because it could do. And air quality is also tagged into the pandemic, because I'm sure I've read some details of report about air quality has completely improved during the pandemic, because there's been less people out and about and on the roads. I'm not sure if that's right or not. It might just be a bit of clickbait.
Well, yeah, the indoor air quality is a problem. That's the thing.
Oh, indoor. Okay. So, well, I think I think it could work, as long as you got that pitch right and thought and listened to the media that you're trying to pitch the story to. And if there's a particular presenter on there that's got an environmental sway, then target them, because presenters also have a lot of impact and sway on saying what stories go into their shows, because they a lot of them bring their own stories to the table as well. So you can email the presenters directly as well.
And it's understanding, isn't it, the angle to go for. So Catherine, if you had now, as you have got, you know, a chance, you do this through pure passion to champion, to genuinely help people, you know, from an indoor air quality point of view, what would be the main, just, you know, 30 words or what would be the main point that you would get across on radio to help everybody from an awareness point of view?
Well, in terms of indoor air quality, how bad indoor air quality is as compared to outdoors, because people think that outdoors is really bad, but actually indoors is 2 to 5 times worse.
And is that because the way we don't wash our pillows enough? Is it what?
No, it's just the particles in the air, the concentrations, and what's going on in the air that we can't see. The number of particles in a closed environment, and what particles they are. So they're viruses, they're allergenic particles, so you could be allergic to them without really knowing about it, or non-allergenic particles.
Okay, well, knowing a bit more about that really interests me, because everyone's working from home, everyone's been in lockdown from home, so it really is how the stay-at-home message could be affecting your health without you even realizing it. So it's about enticing it and tapping into those details of the stories and picking out the most enticing part that's going to hook the producers and presenters into that story. So I'd focus on that. Well,
there's that thing called sick home syndrome, isn't there? Some people get sick because they're in their house.
Well, sick,
you know,
syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah,
and in an office as well, and that's what it is basically. It's what you're inhaling.
We will get her on there. She'll be here on radio soon. Nikki, I'm going to come to you next. Nikki Balance. We've got a few 10 more minutes left. There's any questions? And Kevin, if you want to share anything with us. Nikki, what was your story? Your question again?
It is about my story. So this community I've just launched. So I'm an author and I'm also a creative writers coach. But I had a light bulb moment and decided what I needed to do was help the authors that had launched books, published books during the lockdown, find the readers that they normally would have found but couldn't reach because all of the events and festivals and author talks were cancelled. So it's basically a community for them to find each other, matching the authors with the readers that they would otherwise never have met. And I knew I had an issue because I had a book that I was finding it hard to find my readers, but it wasn't really about me. It's about all the other authors and all those avid readers that love to find new authors and not necessarily just the ones that have got the big publishing deals behind them. So it's really, my question is does that resonate? Is there enough of a hook, and how do I pitch it? What's the best angle to pitch it with? And my end game is to get as many people into this group as possible so that they can help each other.
Kevin, what would you suggest?
I'd suggest everything that I said before, just researching the radio station. It's smacks to me. It's lockdown literature is a nice little tag for it to pull everybody in. And yeah, just targeting the radio stations, tweeting them, and getting your authors, the part of the groups, to also maybe get into the radio stations as well. And it might be a case of offering up, if you've got some big name authors or some big deal authors that are in the group, offering them up as the interviewers to be interviewed from the group, so they can talk about how they've dealt with lockdown with publishing and reading and how it's impacted them on it. So I'd really look at it from that point of view. But also don't be scared to get in touch and look at the hashtags on Twitter and make sure you've got your hashtags in there so you're easily searchable and easily findable. Maybe atting Waterstones or the other book people, just as a way of getting getting some gravity to the story.
On that note, Kevin, actually, hope that's answered your question. On that note, people, so Kelly just asked me, is Twitter still the best place to connect with the media, or good old fashioned telephone? With Twitter, it's come and gone, hasn't it? You know, but journalists are still using it, but nowhere near as much as they used to use it. And obviously, how does it work? How do you see Twitter at the moment? And then how do you find, if you want someone for your show, I'm guessing you go through your little black book, you of course use Media Matchmaker. How else do you find people, Kev? How does it work?
Just through the internet. There would be a time where you're right, we'd go in and put people's names into Facebook and Twitter to find them. But now you can just do that in a Google search bar. So even down to, I guess, from a business point of view, making sure that you've got your Google search names all right will make a massive difference to whether you come up, because we're lazy with us journalists. So we'll search for like, right, if I wanted a wedding organizer in the West Midlands, I'd put wedding planner West Midlands, and whoever the first one is at the top, that's the one that's going to get the first phone call, because we need someone quick and fast. So it's still used and still utilized, but I would say it's becoming less and less so, because Twitter now, anyone can put a profile up and anyone can claim to be an expert. And I know quite a few producers and friends as journalists that have fallen foul of thinking they've found this brilliant expert on Twitter, and actually it's someone that's totally unqualified and doesn't know a bean about what they're doing or saying.
And it's making sure they're media savvy as well, isn't it? You know, and obviously, like you say, you've got to turn these stories around really quickly. So help the journalists as much as you can. You know, yes, absolutely check and Google yourself and make sure you come up with what you want to be known for. So that's really important. Kevin, can I ask you, how far in advance do you plan your stories? I know that you have like breaking news stories so that you have to be topical. And I know I've done radio interviews with you when you've called me an hour before and I've been on your show, you know, just to answer it. But how far do you plan? You must plan some things, days, weeks, do you?
You know, we do. If there are big day events that we know that are happening, like an anniversary event, so like this week it's a year since we all went into lockdown, that planning would start a month beforehand, and then in the run up to the month it would be getting more and more intense. But then if you're doing a more topical program, it used to be when I went into the newsroom at WM at 6 a.m, I'd have a blank sheet of paper for 3 hours of broadcasting, and we were on air at 9. So at 6 a.m, I had nothing for 3 hours of broadcasting, and then had to find the stories, get the experts, get the guests. And that's when the fun really kicks in, because that's when you'll get a phone call like Rachel says, like, right, we're doing this topic today. Can you come on in 2 hours time? And it was so disheartening when you knew that there was a person that knew their stuff that was absolutely brilliant, but they'd say, oh, you've not given us enough notice. Well, it's 2021. We're living in an instant media world. You've got to be media ready 24/7. Because if you want to get out there and get your name out there, that would be the worst thing to say. Oh, you've not.
And it's always quite good as well, isn't it, if you can help a journalist out. So I know for a fact I've done it with times when I haven't been able to help you, but I've put you in touch with other people that can. That helps as well, doesn't it? Because then you know, oh, Rachel, she might not be able to help me, but she'll know someone that can.
Yeah, absolutely. That puts you even further up the list when we're going to call next.
You've just made me realise I have been media matchmaking for years without even realising it, haven't I? How fun. But you know, so plan in advance. So we know that there's so many national and celebration days, and in Media Matchmaker you can access, there's over 400 national and celebration days you can look at the calendar and see what you think might be relevant to you. Circle it, speak to the media about it, and realize that radio is very different to other channels. you know, in terms of from a story, Kev, and I know you're more regional, but you know, how do we get onto the nationals, the BBC Radio 2s, you know, the Talk Sports, you know, how do we go and get our story bigger? What's the difference between being the local and regional expert to the national one?
Okay, I would say that nationally, the 5 Live journalists they'll have their go-to experts that they feel safe and secure going to, because they know they're a safe pair of hands. That can make it extremely difficult to bump one of those off the list and get your name on that list. But I guess it's doing more and more media at a local level, and then getting your name out there, and then being able and being brave to then just punt yourself to the nationals as well, because they'll have a team of people behind the scenes far more than local radio will have to find those stories. And you can say to the local journalists at your local radio stations, oh look, could you send this on to the Vine team? Could you send this on to Drive? Could you send it on to Nihal? And share that with them, or just ask them what's their email address, and then email the team at the nationals and say, look, I've just done this interview on my local radio station. I think this has got national gravitas. Here are the details. Here's a link to the interview. Let me know if you need any more, and then just send them another update like that. It's just really about, I've got a saying, ask, believe, receive. So it falls into that as well, really.
And I was listening to journalists speak the other day, and sometimes it is just the luck of the draw. It's your email and your expertise landing in at exactly the right time. You know, we talk through our PR Hour Lives and the training, and we encourage you to write a press release or something, some touch points. And even, you know, don't feel it has to be a press release. I was listening to journalists from national journalists just the other day talking about how just send us a couple of sentences about the how, why, what, when, where. We'll know if it's a story. We can pick up on it if it's a story. So just keep in touch with them, but slightly tweak. You are only doing your one thing, your services, but you can tweak the way that you approach it. So, you know, it is attracting, not chasing. Absolutely. You know, so what we want you to do is make sure you do take action and get in touch. And don't be scared, because Nicola, you'd have probably been on radio. If you'd have gone forward with that story, you could have shaped it, and then you'd have been in their database from a policewoman and a networking point of view as a woman in business. We're going to wrap up. It is literally 1 minute before we end. It's been really useful. Kevin, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
If any of you want to follow us, tomorrow we are on Clubhouse at 12:30. I think it's 12:30. Yeah, Clubhouse at 12:30 tomorrow. So if you want to continue the conversation, you can come on Clubhouse under Meet the Journalist event. Meet the Journalist is the Clubhouse name. You can contact us there and then chat with us and ask Kevin any more questions. Kevin, you are a superstar as usual. Thank you so much.
No, I really hope that. I hope that was useful to everybody.
It's been really useful. Thank you to everybody, and we look forward
Rachel,
to seeing you.
Sorry, could you type the Clubhouse app thingy so that I know where the room is?
It's just at Media Matchmaker. There's either at Media Matchmaker or Meet the Journalist. But if you follow me, I don't know yet. I'm just getting into it all. So.
It will work. At Media Matchmaker. Okay,
so do follow us and come. I've got the lovely Janetta who's moderating the room for us, because I'm completely new to it all, but it would be fun. And Kev's going to join us, and then we've got Janie Lee Grace from Radio 2 that's joining us the following Thursday, so that should be quite good. Guys, thank you so much for your time, and Kevin, it's always an absolute pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow and seeing you all hopefully on future events. Have a great day, everybody. See you later. Take care. Bye.